Hi, I'm Diane Price, President and CEO of Early Connections Learning Centers. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we thought it would be nice to have a little bit of a chat with Samantha Raboyne, who is one of our behavioral health consultants here at Early Connections Learning Centers. As most of you know, we have a strong program that supports children with social emotional development and challenging behaviors. Thought it would be nice to talk with Samantha and get a little bit of an insight into what's happening with our kiddos and our teachers and our families at Early Connections. So Sam, as I mentioned, we've always had this strong support for children. We've seen this for a very long time, that we saw a lot of kiddos that needed social emotional development, a lot of support around some challenging behaviors. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make sure that we were serving these children the best way we could, and so we've implemented what we feel is a pretty comprehensive program. But I'm curious, as we kind of know what happened as we went through COVID. I'm not going to say we're post-COVID because who knows where we are with this pandemic. But what are you seeing when you're in classrooms now with our youngest children, and how they're responding to being in groups and being back in care?
I think one of the biggest changes we saw was when the mask mandate was lifted and they were actually able to see our whole face. I think that's a very big part of portraying not only emotions but speech and speaking with the children. It's a lot, especially the infants, talking to them and interacting with them is one of the biggest ways that we can support their social emotional development. And when they can't see half our face, that's really hard for a lot of our kids. So when they were able to really see us and they didn't have to bother with their masks and such, it was a lot different of relationship building in the classroom. I think a lot of the kiddos that might have had a harder time not really knowing their teachers because they really only knew half their face, it really benefited them. Being able to have more consistent time in the classroom with the children has been really beneficial for them. We're not having to close classrooms as much for sickness, and they're able to have more of a consistent routine.
That's good to hear, because that was one of my big worries with masks. When we first started having these conversations about masks, about teachers wearing masks back in 2020. And I remember I was pretty resistant to it. I said, I don't know how this is going to work. I probably said it more firmly than that. I just don't know how this is going to work.
It was really important at the time, and it was just a big change for all of us.
And I was so worried about children's development, and particularly infants and toddlers, because their speech is growing at that time, developing, and all those interactions. And I worried about being able to animate from here up, because so much of what we do is from here down. So I'm glad to hear that we recognize it, but we're seeing some changes with that. That's good to hear.
Well, and luckily we partner with a lot of organizations outside that are able to come and provide services such as speech support in the classroom. And those therapists were very cognizant of the fact of how in speech especially they need to see the mouth, and so a lot of them were able to get the clearer visors. That helped a lot more with speaking with the children who needed speech services in the classroom. So that did help for that specific kind of service and support that was needed in the classroom.
So that's social emotional development. I think it's particularly around our very youngest children. But what about the kind of unperceived stress that kiddos probably feel that we don't necessarily recognize as adults, that kind of I've always thought it just kind of oozes out of us into the littles around us, and how do they respond? So how are they doing?
Absolutely. I mean, again, with some of the restrictions lifted and the more consistent time in the classroom, we are able to kind of pinpoint that underserved stress that they're experiencing, maybe whether it be at home or in a shelter, wherever they may be at the time. Seeing them more regularly gets us more in tune with how they're feeling on a day-to-day basis. And so that does allow us to support them more with their social emotional development and those challenging behaviors that we see in the classroom. We can be there more consistently for them and provide that support so it doesn't almost get forgotten, during the COVID breaks, or, mom lost her job because of COVID and then she can't afford the care, so they stay home and then they kind of get reset. So it really has been beneficial for our older ones working on the social emotional development and those challenging behaviors to be able to just really be hands-on in the classroom consistently.
So one of the things that I think I wonder about a lot of things, but one of the things I wonder about is screen time, and how it relates to what transfers into coming into a setting with other children. So we're coming out of a time where a lot of isolation. Our families were isolated, kids were isolated, and I imagine there was just a lot more screen time than possible. Are we seeing that? Is that contributing to some of our challenges with behaviors? Is it getting better? Is it about the same?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, definitely pre-COVID, you could kind of turn on a Coco Melon noise in the infant or toddler room and they would all come running. Just, you kind of know that that's something they're exposed to at home. But with preschoolers, we do songs on the iPad, and they've always been interested in seeing the iPad rather than just listening to the song. I haven't seen too much of a difference in the classrooms, honestly, other than the fact that there's still that somewhat attachment there. Again, COVID or not, when they go home, they might have more screen time than others, and that just varies kid to kid. I'd say it's about the same. There's still that interest there, and there's still that, well, why can't we watch this instead of read a book, or but honestly and gratefully, it hasn't changed too much in the classrooms.
I guess if I can say one thing to all of you as you think about your children and your grandchildren is screen time is so critical to the limited amount of screen time is so critical to their child growth and development, their social emotional development. And I know how easy it can be, but
right, you gotta make dinner, the kids screaming, hearing the screen, let me finish what I gotta do.
So,
absolutely.
And I just think it's important that our children learn to play. That's how they act out and how they learn.
Yeah.
So
and the independent play too, like if you are making dinner, that it's okay if they're trying to play by themselves for 10 minutes. It's even if they're upset about it, that's a great skill to learn is independent play.
So I've worried a lot about our teachers, our staff. We have very professional staff who are so committed to our children and our families and to the work we do. But they've been here every day through this entire episode, the last 3 years of what we've been going through. And so how are they doing? Are we doing okay with them? I
think it's getting better.
Good.
I think, we all kind of were in an unprecedented time and not sure how to take care of ourselves, how to take care of each other. And slowly through this process, we found ways to just check in with teachers and make sure that they have the resources they need outside of here if they need it. We always preach our employee assistant program that's there even if you don't have our insurance. I think that's very important for them to know. Melissa and I have done self-care trainings, and we try to incorporate mindfulness every week into everyone's day. So I think that the ones that have been struggling either know where to go or what resources to have, and if not, then we're always encouraging them to speak up and ask for what they need, because if they're not able to take care of themselves, it's really hard to take care of a bunch of little ones as well.
Absolutely.
So we really, really, really emphasize self-care for our teachers, and self-care is not an afterthought. It's a precursor. It's a proactive approach to your mental health.
Sam, thank you for everything you do with your team, everything you've done continue to do for our organization, supporting our very youngest children. These first 5 years are so important in their lives, and the support to our teachers and our families, helping kiddos get through this time has been so critical to child growth and development. So thank you for everything you do.
Of course, I'm happy to be here and grateful to do the work. It's very rewarding.
Thank you. So again, Mental Health Awareness Month, take care of yourselves. But I think the other thing to remember is that Early Connections is committed to the whole child. And with your support and your commitment to us and your attention to us, you can be assured that the children that attend our programs are getting the best support and care and love and nurturing that's available, and that when you support Early Connections, you're supporting the children birth to 5 who really need it the most.